Rolling?
It's about me?
Okay.
It's about
you, Diane Devaughn Stokes.
No, I thought we were going to talk about the festival.
Half of the dynamic duo of the Grand Strand for television.
Oh, you so
And
sweet.
you said Chuck couldn't make it because he's what?
Beekeeping.
Beekeeping. That is cool.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. I mean, you never know what someone's up to, do you?
I know.
And what their hobbies are and passions are until you finally find out. So I'm going to trade you some truffles for some honey. Is that okay?
Oh, yes. We'll do that.
All right.
We'll
start our barter. I didn't mean for the IRS to hear that. Well, you've had a long career and still going strong.
51 years.
Would you do anything different?
No, because this is where I wanted to live. This is what I wanted to do. And when I look back on it, the 51 years have been wonderful. You know, there's not a lot of local money in local television, let's say. But I didn't do it for that. You know, I wanted to live in Myrtle Beach. I wanted to do this for a living, and I'm really blessed.
As long as you have enough to eat, pay your light bills, and live decently, there's an emotional wallet too, along with a financial wallet, and you have to fill that.
Well, yeah.
And if you're a passionate person like you are, and you're in an economic environment where you're working in a cubicle and your emotional wallet's empty, that's soul-sucking.
Yeah,
it's hard. And so you need to fulfill that.
And I met Chuck in television, so what more could I want?
Nothing.
And it's been almost, we've known each other for 40 years and married 39.
So when we see you on TV, always the smile, always the positivity. It's not always that way though, and you've really got to put on a brave face sometimes, because throughout your life you have things go on.
Sure.
You have to show up, and the person that you're getting ready to interview, it's their business, it's their moment, and you can't let that fall flat. You're a professional, extreme professional, but at first, was that difficult at times, or did it just come natural? It's like, hey, I've got to pull up my boots, put on my smiley face, and give these people a proper interview, and then I can go back to whatever issue is taking place.
Well,
how did you deal with that?
I think that I'm most lucky because I'm doing what I wanted to do, which was feature. I never wanted to do the news. Every station I've ever worked for has tried to push me into the news department. I would never be happy doing news. If I had to talk about murders or, you know, the crimes that were happening in this community or any other community, I wouldn't have been happy. So I'm doing what I love to do, which is interview people. When I was a little kid and my grandmother would take me into town on the bus, I might be sitting with someone strange, not maybe necessarily my grandmother, she'd be sitting somewhere else, and I'd be interviewing these people, and I would tell my grandmother about this man was a plumber and he did this and he did that, and she'd say, you know, you're too damn friendly for your own good. And we always laugh at that line. Chuck throws it up at me all the time, but I was always intrigued by people, and I was always interviewing people from the time I was a little girl. So I'm actually doing what I love to do. I don't think I've ever had to put on a happy face. You know, I think there were times where I had to show up at work where maybe I had the flu or, you know, I was, you know, grueling for some reason. And even now I'm having some health issues, but you know what? I'm blessed that I feel good, that I get up every day and, you know, live in a community I chose to be in. And so I feel really lucky, Jerry.
What interview stands out in the 51 years that was really emotional for you, or really either good, bad, indifferent, whatever? What interview stands out to you, or do you have one that's like, wow, this was some story?
Of course. My best story, my very best story, is that Jimmy Carter announced his presidency on a live radio show that I was hosting with a friend, Doug Williams. Doug Williams was my mentor in Florence. We were doing a live radio show, and to make a long story short, we interviewed people who came into the Holiday Inn on the Holiday Show. They would come into the Holiday Inn, they'd be having breakfast, we'd invite them to come up. A lot of people in the community would schedule coming in, but we really never knew who was coming on the hour-and-a-half radio show. And one day, there was this young guy came up to see us. We were serving coffee, and he came over and he said, you know, my father's over here. He's very intrigued about what y'all are doing. And I said, well, invite him to come over when y'all are done eating breakfast. And he said, well, we're from Georgia. And I said, we don't care. We have no guests right now. Come on over. Next thing we know, these two people are joining us. I handed him the book to sign in. The man signs in Jimmy Carter, the son signs in Chip Carter. We have them across the table at a microphone, and Jimmy says, you know, this is real Americana. I've been watching you guys, and there's something I'd like to say. There's a gift I'd like to give you. And I said, really? I said, well, go right ahead. And he said, I'm running for president. And I said, my Barbara Walters fashion, president of what? Because he said he was running for president. And he said, I'm running for president of these United States. And I said, oh, well, please forgive me. I wasn't being sarcastic, but
Right.
the fact is, the only presidents we've ever had on this show were someone who was running for president of the Rotary Club
Right.
or the Chicora, Kiwanis Club, whatever. And all of a sudden, Jimmy Carter says, no, I'm running for president of these United States, and I want you to always remember, I announced it right here. Well, at this point, Doug and I think we've got somebody who's either a little schizo, maybe drunk. We're not really sure whether this man is
Right.
legit. And I said, well, you seem like such a nice man. Why would you want to get involved in politics? And he says, well, my dear, I've been involved in politics. I was the governor of Georgia. Now, truthfully, Jerry, nowadays you might know who the governor of Georgia is. I didn't know who the governor of Georgia ever was. So I didn't know that this man was truly telling us the truth.
Right.
But he said he was running for president and he had been the governor of Georgia. He told us he was very involved with peanut farming. That really threw us. We thought, no way, but we played it safe. I was always taught by my mentor, Doug, as well as in college, studying English and journalism, that you give your guests respect, regardless of who they are. We don't see that very often today.
No, things have changed.
We don't see that at all. And
There's a deterioration of respect, and I think that is one of the main key elements of why we are where we are, because the respect has dropped.
You're right. And I totally gave this guy total respect. So we finished the interview, make a long story short, and when we get done, Doug and I think we have been duped. We figure when we get back to the radio station, our boss is going to fire us because we just played it straight. We went back to the station. We didn't have, back then, we didn't have cell phones. Back then, we didn't, have a computer to Google who Jimmy Carter was. So we went back to the station and I called the Democratic Party. And I said, ma'am, do you know if there is a Jimmy Carter who is going to run for president? And she said, well, not that I know of. And I said, would you check that out and call me back? So in 15 minutes, the woman calls me back and says, I just called Atlanta, Georgia. Jimmy Carter was the governor of Georgia, and he is considering a run for the presidency. And I said, well, I want to tell you, he's going to run for president because he just announced it on our radio show,
Wow.
The Holiday Show. And that is a true story.
That's a big story.
It was a big story.
That is a big story. And you didn't have Google back then to type it in real quick to see if he is who he says he is.
Nope. And he was just a sweetheart. He was down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that he was getting teeth at the Sexton Dental Clinic in Florence. And a lot of people asked me what I thought they were doing in Florence. And the reason I believe that is because I also worked as the marketing director for the Holiday Inn. And we used to give out pillows to people who got teeth because if they were driving home, they needed to pad their face, whatever. Right. We had these cheap pillows, and he took one from the room, which we expect people to take.
Right.
And I've always said he was getting teeth at the Sexton Dental Clinic in Florence, and that's what brought him there. But he was a super guy, and even now, and I know that Jimmy's been in hospice,
yes.
And I wish I could see him and thank him for what he did, because he gave us a tremendous gift.
You got the scoop, didn't you?
We did, Jerry.
Was there ever an interview that was bizarre? Strange?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, yes. I did write a book several years ago. I have a book of many stories from I guess I had written the book when I had been in the business about 42, 43 years. And I had lots of bizarre stories because I did a lot of live television and live radio. And back then, we didn't have delay systems. I mean, I've had people curse on the air. I've had, I had a sex therapist on TV starting to talk about things I surely didn't want her to talk about.
Right.
I had a psychotherapist who actually accused a local politician of, she actually said she had a child with this local politician. I won't bring up any names, but I've had a lot of people do things on live TV they shouldn't have done. So there have been a lot of bizarre moments, but I always knew how to go to a commercial break when I needed
Quickly.
to. I always kept my cool.
Right.
And, but they were precious moments,
Now that you look back, they're very precious, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So when I asked you at the beginning, would you do anything different? You've lived the life you wanted to live, which is the richest you can be.
Absolutely. Oh, there's no doubt about it. I was always very close to my parents too, and having been from Florence, I never wanted to move far away from my mother, my father, and my younger sister. I'm 12 years older than my other sister, and I'm like her mother. And so leaving my family was not anything I ever wanted to do. I had a couple of wonderful offers. I had a great offer to do PM Magazine in Sacramento, California, a six-figure offer. When I was only making $25,000 here, I was offered a six-figure job there, but I didn't want it. I didn't want to take it. So I don't have any regrets about any of that. The only reason I brought it up is because it happened, but at the same time, I chose my path.
Well, I want to personally thank you for everything you've done for the Grand Strand and always been that face of just consistency. And
Thank
Chuck
you.
behind the camera, I wish he could have been here. I know he was reluctant to come on the couch, but you said that's where you like him, on the couch. I didn't know how to take that, by the way.
He's always good on the couch, but he's really better behind the camera.
Right. I know he likes to be behind the camera. But I
Absolutely.
appreciate everything you've done and Chuck's done for the Grand Strand.
Thank
And I
you,
think a lot of
Jerry.
other people do, because you bring a cheery, bright, positive face to the area, which is all part of what the Grand Strand's about.
Well,
It's about living good and living wholesome. Well, wholesome is as much as wholesome as you
Yeah,
want it to
I'm
be.
wholesome.
But you want to live life the way it was meant to live, right?
Absolutely. And you know what?
You got to enjoy your way through.
I want to tell you how much I have enjoyed the film festival last year and this year, and congratulations, you're certainly doing something wonderful. And what you're doing in Loris is even more exciting with the film studio.
Hey,
Best wishes, Jerry.
More to come on that. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Cut.
Cut.